Welcome back to 52 Lockup with 52 Weeks of Crimes. Alright, I am your Appletini Captain of Bitten Apple TV. 52 Lockup is a series I started to talk about one of my biggest passions, true crime. So, I am returning to you, Season 2, Episode 2. Okay, so I did forget to apologize in my last video about the incomplete year of last year. But some things occurred, and then that's the best way to summarize it. I'm not saying I'm Batman, but I'm just saying, you'll never see us, in the same room. All right, let's get back to Cat Maniac Murder Mondays with the next 52 crimes. The goal is to get to 52 this year. So I hope you guys enjoy. Be sure to leave some feedback, and of course, subscribe. Viewer discretion is always advised, especially for this one. Okay, talking about babies in this one, just to give you a heads up. Now, hear me out. Let's pretend we are in high school and we're 14 years old, like Cassidy Goodson of Florida, who's facing murder charges. Cassidy Goodson was born in 1997 to Teresa and Timothy Goodson, and so far, from what I found online, seems to have lived a normal life. She has sisters, but the reason we are discussing this Kathleen high school freshman is because she was pregnant at 14 years old, and what came to be of this baby. So during the terms of her pregnancy, Cassidy hid her pregnancy from her parents by wearing baggy clothes. So throughout the summer, as she is walking around in baggy sweatpants and loose-fitting tees, some family members were like, think she's pregnant, and they tried to discuss it with actually her mom, Teresa, but it seemed Teresa denied these suggestions that her daughter was ever even pregnant to begin with, and she had even made her daughter take 2 at-home pregnancy tests. But Cassidy was able to take the test in private in her own bathroom, and the results were negative. Her father, Timothy, stated he had noticed Cassidy's weight gain, but that she had been walking around at home literally with a wrapped blanket around her body frequently. So, let's take a second moment here. What is standing out to me is that most of the fact that the parents had to be told from other family members that they thought she was pregnant. And the mother's testing seems skeptical, right? I am surprised that she would let a 14-year-old take the pregnancy test alone, which gives me the impression the mother gave her the test and just walked away. Now, either Teresa is really gullible, wholeheartedly trusting her daughter, right? Or she was skeptical from the get-go about the pregnancy. And the last option is that Cassidy was highly ignored in the household, and perhaps even her siblings. Timothy's statement of noticing Cassidy's wearing of the blankets all day during the summer is very telling. No one seemed to question what was happening with Cassidy. Now, I'm not blaming the parents because parenting is not easy, but questions do come up. Now, it's September 19th, 2022. Her water breaks. Cassidy is muffling the sound of her pain of giving birth by running water and gripping the towel between her teeth. She sat on the toilet to give birth. Cassidy would also use her own pair of scissors to assist her to pry the baby out of her. Again, to drown out her voice with water running, gripping the towel, and strangling an infant. She hides it, cleans up the body, the blood, acts like nothing happened. How little attention was this child getting? That's a lot of noise, right? For no one to notice, on top of 9 months, you're giving birth in the bathroom with a towel. She's 5'3" at 100 pounds, giving birth to a 9.5 pounded baby boy. She felt a pulse and still proceeded to strangle the baby to death. Hid the corpse in a shoebox with dirty laundry. Teresa so she noticed the blood on the toilet. She knew that Cassidy had recently used it, and she ended up taking her to Lakeland Regional Medical Center. Now, the medical staff there began treatment and told Teresa, she suffered a miscarriage. Showed 4 to 5 lacerations on her vaginal wall. Maybe from her cutting the baby out. Remember, Cassidy pried the baby out with scissors. Since the miscarriage was stated, Cassidy would falsely confess to her mother that she had indeed had a miscarriage at home and flushed the fetus down the toilet by accident. September 22nd, 2022. Days later, Teresa, her mother, would be cleaning her daughter's room because she noticed a foul stench under a pile of soiled clothes. At approximately 7:30 p.m., Teresa would remove a bag of smelly, wet clothing from a storage stool in her daughter's bedroom. That's when she found the deceased baby. Hidden. Right? Absolutely hidden. After the foul odor was discovered and police were involved, the 14-year-old describes how she delivered her own baby and strangled it to death. She stated in a clip with ABC, "Its eyes weren't open, but I felt to see if it was breathing or not, and it was breathing. So I put my hands around its throat to make it stop breathing." The police asked about how hard did she squeeze, and her response was enough for it to stop breathing. Cassidy would use a Santa Claus doll to reconstruct the crime of how she handled the baby in the bathroom at her home. After an autopsy was performed, it would later be determined that the victim/baby was a full-term infant, meaning she already gave birth, right? And he was alive and breathing prior to their untimely death. The baby died as a result of asphyxia, which is suffocation from the strangulation, and blunt force trauma. It is interesting that she kept the body in her room, and it makes me wonder if that could mean remorse. Could it mean she wanted to get caught? Why didn't she even try to completely get rid of the body? Was she not able to do it afterwards properly? Was she scared still? Was she holding on to it? Who's the father of this child? The father of the child is not discussed at all. There are no mentions of the young teenage boy, hopefully teenage boy or man, which I find it really strange. Like, was she assaulted by an adult or a family member and held her tongue? Did she do this because she didn't think she had access to abortion care? I mean, this is not a black and white kind of scenario. Yes and no kind of case. There are a bevy of reasons, steps, and choices of everyone that lead to this moment. Cassidy would tell detectives she was motivated to hide her pregnancy and choke the baby to stop him from breathing by the fear that her relationship with her parents would change if they found out the truth. She was arrested and transported first to the Juvenile Assessment Center and then to Polk County Juvenile Detention Facility. She is charged with premeditated first-degree murder under the Florida statute 782.04, which can be punishable up to life in prison. She's 14. She is also charged with capital felony and aggravated child abuse, a first-degree felony. Her lawyer was able to negotiate a plea deal reducing the charge to manslaughter and allowing her child client to serve a sentence as a minor under the unique terms of Cassidy Goodson's plea. She will avoid an adult prison facility and will serve minimum 18-month sentence in a juvenile detention facility. An article from the New York Times quoted Dr. Philip J. Resnick, a professor of psychiatry at Case Western Reserve Medical School, about their 1970s study of women who kill their newborns. And he stated a prominent feature in several of the infants and murders of the babies, was the inability of the unwed girl to reveal her pregnancy to her mother. Interesting. So Dr. Resnick said in an interview that while in many cases the pregnant teenagers feared both parents, they feared the mother in particular. While out of wedlock, births may carry less, stigma today than ever, he said. Many of those teenagers are good girls, who are afraid that their mother would have so much shock and disapproval that they couldn't bear to face it. At the same time, he cautioned that some fathers are very strict, and I can see a father being less forgiving. Dr. Robert Blum, professor of pediatrics and adolescent health at the University of Minnesota, said that the fathers are more peripheral than the mothers. Ask the average 15-year-old, what's the worst thing about being pregnant? And she'll tell you, telling mom. Moms are more in the lives of kids, he said. It is the fear of rejection, of retribution, of falling in the esteem of your parents, he added. We spend our lives trying to appease our parents. That is the most important community you will ever have. For a kid who has no other resources, the notion of being rejected by your family is petrifying. Dr. Margaret Spinelli, director of a maternal mental health program at the Columbia University College of Physicians and Surgeons, she said, she found that pregnant teenagers seemed equally afraid of telling either parent. In extensive interviews with 9 teenagers who killed their newborns, she found several patterns. 7 of the 9 had been sexually or physically abused by someone outside the family. The girl was usually her father's favorite or excelling in school and earning good grades. They have no sociopathic traits, she said. Some are cheerleaders, but in many cases there was a complex family dynamic with a confusion of roles. The mother of a teenager was often cold and rejecting. Dr. Spinelli said the father is hypervigilant and intrusive in his daughter's life. The girl played something like the role of wife to her father, so that when she became pregnant, she was overwhelmed with guilt that she had betrayed him, and she had to hide this closeness from her mother. Abused women tend to compartmentalize, right, their sexuality. She said, so when they become pregnant, they block it out as a coping mechanism. They don't consciously hide it. It's not up here. They disassociate from it, right? It's separating. Dr. Spinelli said they can go along with unawareness of their pregnancies, then blame the baby on something like the food they ate. One pregnant teenager was riding in a horse show, right? Interrupted her ride to go to a secluded stall and deliver her baby. Climbed back on her horse. Another left the middle of work to deliver her baby. Dr. Spinelli quoted her as saying, "I was convinced the baby was dead, so I went back to work." Dr. Resnick explains such seemingly incomprehensible behavior by saying that such a woman does not bond with her infant in the utero. The woman views the infant as foreign, like a peach pit going through her body, he said, because she doesn't think of herself as pregnant. She makes no preparations either to care for the infant or to kill it. Mostly, he said, the teenager fantasizes about a stillbirth so she won't have to do anything. Then the infant cries, he said, and there is a need to silence the intruder. I am very much looking forward to this case and seeing how it unfolds. Like, how did we get here? The roads are dark and dank and flooded with fears and mental isolation on a different level. How did we get here, Cassidy? I want to know more about her parents and what were they doing and not doing. I am also curious to who the father is of the baby. Going back to Dr. Resnick and the other doctors I just quoted, are we looking for an abused child who's suffering while she's been through so much, or will she be completely blamed for all this? I just want to know more about it, right? Why did Cassidy make this decision? And I want to make it clear. Cassidy's decision is completely separate from an abortion. Okay, I'm going to make that clear. So I don't want to see anyone in the comment section fighting with each other, going, you're this, you're that. Leave it alone. We're not discussing abortion. That is not what is on the table. We're discussing what Cassidy has chosen to do after she has given birth to a child. Abortion is a whole other topic. I mean, including all kind of things that can go wrong medically versus what Cassidy has done. Now, she's 14 years old. Yeah, granted, I get it. Her mind hasn't developed fully, but she's well aware of good and bad. She's aware of what's morally right and morally wrong. She's aware. She may be more challenging at the mental stage of her life to challenge her parents or maybe the other authority figures in her life. But my concern is, how did you get here? Did you make this decision because maybe you were abused and you were afraid to tell your parents? Like, does that fear and that guilt kick in even further back besides like, oh man, I let this happen to me and now I'm pregnant and then I did this? What's going on in your head? And the problem with her case is that I feel like there's a lot of people, especially during the timing of it, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to utilize her case to compare it to others who may be having abortion. There's also a lot of stigmata that follow behind a woman. There's an assumption about a lot of things. Like in regards to abortion, there's an assumption that women are just going up and down like, you know what? I don't want you anymore at the 8th, during the 8th month, not realizing there's so much more intricacies that go into the situation of what someone else may be going through, versus what Cassidy did. I also feel like because she's a female, it may not be approached the way that it should be. My concern is, what would make your normal 14-year-old girl make this decision? She couldn't have possibly been sitting home just like, all right, fuck it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not how we got here. Every single thing that we do in life, everything, there are steps. There are a series of decisions. There are a series of things that affect us. Do you know what I mean? Like, in the sense of, I don't know, someone goes into true crime. Maybe it's because they witnessed a lot of things. Maybe they've experienced a lot of things. But those experiences are the very things that guide you to those decisions that you make, like making a true crime show. So my question is, what the fuck happened to Cassidy? Because her situation is not going to compare to someone else. Why were you that fearful of your parents? Were they that strict? Were you always having a struggling relationship? What brought you to this decision? And then on top of it, why did you keep the body? Was this for momentum? Was it because you regret what you did and you were hoping the baby still lived in the subconscious? What is happening up here at 14 years old? That was last year. September 19, 2022. One of the kids that I adore, that's their birthday. On their birthday, this is happening for a kid who's not that much older than them. What is going through your head? And then why didn't the parents notice? Why did the parents have to be told by other family members, hey, I think she's pregnant. It's boiling hot in July and this girl's wearing 4 layers of sweatshirt. She's not cold. Something's wrong. Those are just classic things. And my question is, if that's the case, did no one check up on her? Did no one notice that when she went to go take a shower that maybe her belly was getting a little big? Maybe not in the first couple of months. All right, whatever. But at that point, now she's showing. She's obviously starting to hide it. No one checked up on her. No one said, hey, what's this? Did they ignore it? Did they see what was happening and then choose to ignore it? The father saying, oh, I noticed she was wearing blankets around the house. No one's air conditioner is on that full blast. No one. No one's walking around with like huge wraparound blankets, especially if it's something new that they're doing. They weren't doing it before. I get it. Some people are blanket people, whatever. That's why I got the new blanket clothes, whatever. But if this is suddenly abruptly a new thing, no one noticed? None of her siblings noticed? No one noticed? Was she the middle child with the constant thing is, and when you're the middle child, you're the ignored one. The oldest one is the one that I guess is that gets the hardest treatment. The baby gets everything. The middle is ignored. Is that what happened? I mean, it's absolutely heartbreaking to think of what happened to this girl. I really would love the audience's opinion for those who are watching this and, and you're just like, what? Like, I know I took you real far in 15 minutes. You're just like, this is not what I anticipated on. And then my other thing is, it seems like the parents are trying to paint a picture of like, oh no, we were paying attention. But I'm like, it took you to find too much blood for you to be like, we're going to the hospital. Something's wrong. And then my question is, did you ask any other questions as you're driving her to the hospital? Like, what happened really between you two? Because it's hard to get information about the case, especially because it's a minor. But it seems like the parents have not said enough for me to be like, I have speculation. And it almost, to a certain degree, not as much compared to, not to say that these two cases are the same, but the 4th of July shooter, one of them, that I did last year, I had noticed he had a bunch of warning signs that the family just seemed to be just dismissing. And I'm wondering, does she have the same, I guess, kind of scenario where she wasn't getting enough attention? And then again, I keep wanting to go back. Who is the father of the child? And I kind of feel like it's not going to be discussed. Because I feel like with females, there tends to be like the stigma of, well, como se dice? We focus on the mother being pregnant. So if the father's not in the picture, it's like, well, whatever. Everything should be the responsibility of the mother. But if she was abused by an adult man who had no business messing around with some 14-year-old, does that mean that her parents didn't know she was in a relationship being groomed by an older man? Was she raped? Was it by a fellow teenager? Is she still trying to protect the person who victimized her? And like, there's too much, and I want to see this case. I want to watch it unfold, and I wish I had the capability to, honest to God, sit right there in that courtroom, because I want to understand, Cassidy, how did we get here, honey? How did we get here? But anyways, I digress. I would love to know your opinion on this case. What is your perspective? What do you think of the parents? What do you think about her young age making this decision? Do you think she was trying to figure out a way to tell her parents, and then when the birth finally happened, and she just freaked out and was like, I can't tell them, and then proceeded to do this? I still think it's fucking amazing that she gave birth, cut herself. Listen to me. She took scissors, cut herself to get the baby out. Because when you're giving birth, you have to shift it sometimes, but you have to still have to let the baby do it because their bones are very soft. So they be very gentle. As they push, you gently let the baby slide out. That means there was a little bit of trouble. She got the baby out by cutting herself open. Where the fuck did she learn that? Where? Where did she learn it? YouTube? Like, where did you get this information? Like, okay, so picture yourself sitting in a bathroom. Not only are you giving birth, I don't care if you're a man. Let's add you into the scenario. If you're a man, picture someone taking a pair of scissors to your dick and you're not sitting there screaming, and all that's stopping the noise is running water? Where was the family? Which is why I keep wondering what was happening in Cassidy's life. How did no one notice this? No one heard the screaming, music, and running water? That's it? That's it? I can't even imagine how long it took her to do all that, then turn around and strangle, and then cut everything, and then try to put it back like everything's okay. And to be in that bad of a position? 9 pounds is big. I was big. Okay? I may not be big now, but that's not the point. I just don't understand it. How could this 14-year-old girl have gone through all of this completely by herself, and we don't know who impregnated her, and we don't know why the parents were so dismissing of everything? Why did it take everyone so long? Why? Anyways, I would love to know your opinions on this case, and as always, stay safe and stay vigilant.